you everyone for your time. This meeting today is to discuss the Vet Meds Product Stewardship Scheme and to answer any questions that you may have. Feel free to, as I mentioned, put the hand up or ask to be unmuted and provide a question for me to answer. But before we kick off into what the actual terms of reference is here, I just thought I'd explain what does the Mandatory Product Stewardship Scheme mean, or briefly explain it to you, just so that you're all aware of how I'm approaching it. So back in 2019, the government mandated that a product stewardship scheme is the vessel of how we will be doing recycling. And in doing that, they consulted on a number of guidelines or rules that they wanted to implement, and these have been consulted on, reviewed, and gazetted. So there's a legal ruling around this. That doesn't mean you can't change some of the guidelines. It just means it's only the Minister for the Environment that can change any of the guidelines. A product stewardship scheme is about it's like recycling, but it's recycling on steroids. So you can't pick and choose where you operate your products, your recycling. It has to be nationally. It has to be available for everyone to participate. It has to be free. It has to be paid for by the brands or the manufacturers at some level up there. And all plastic that we collect must be recycled into the circular economy. Now, please bear in mind that the circular economy does mean going to landfill, which is the lowest possible level and not a level I'm particularly comfortable with. So we're always trying to get it further up the chain. But in the view of the government, it's easier to have it all. Just admit other people. It's easier to have it in the control of the product stewardship scheme than have it buried or burnt or randomly sent to a landfill. So there's 26 guidelines overall. And they, as I said, they have been gazetted, and we do have to follow those rules. So any approach that I'm taking for the product stewardship scheme and developing this is to meet those guidelines. So the approach that you would have seen in the terms of reference, it has established what I call the advisory group. And what I've done there is I've built a group of people who are, in my eyes, experts in their field within New Zealand. And they're there to provide advice to the group on how we could possibly do a product stewardship scheme. And everyone will participate in the sense that I know with the veterinary medicines that's out there now that the packaging is very complex, very difficult to recycle. So it's about giving participants to know to understand how a recycler would receive it, or how a processor would be able to process it in order to get the best possible outcome. It's around sitting around the table, coming up, developing a concept. So the advisory group does not build the product stewardship scheme, they build the concept. From that concept, which is based on what's doable, that will be then sent out to what I call stakeholder and reference groups, and the people on this call I would class as stakeholders. And we would be seeking feedback from you on whether you think that concept is achievable or whether it creates some issues, and provide that feedback through to the advisory team, which would discuss it some more, and then we would do a reiterative process where we would go back out to the marketplace through the stakeholders and the reference groups, asking for further information once we have made some changes to it. The actual decision on how it goes into a product stewardship scheme will be with Agrecovery to make sure that it meets with the guidelines, and then that will be submitted through to the Ministry for approval as a product stewardship scheme. I would say, looking at what I've dealt with over the last year or so with the vet meds there, this is going to be a long process. Every time we look under a rock, we are finding different problems to deal with, whether it's 3 or 4 different plastics or PVC, for example, which is quite dangerous to recycle, so it needs to be treated properly. There's human health issues with contamination of the product. Talking with some of the brands the other day, finding out that some of this product will need to move through the supply chain very quickly, Otherwise, it would become an issue for humans to manage that. There is one more person coming in. That is not to say that we won't be sending some stuff to either landfill or to burning, because it's not fit for humans to be able to process or sort. But it is about building it in a manner that we minimise what needs to go for destruction and maximise what actually can be recycled. That is the intent of the product stewardship scheme, and that is what the ministry is expecting. So that's in a nutshell what I have I've got to talk about today. Is there any questions or any points anyone wants me to raise a little bit more?
May I, Tony? It's Vanessa from Zoetis.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. You have made a call for companies to nominate someone who could represent the vet med manufacturers around the table of the advisory group. And I ask according to what criteria, for instance, this person would be chosen. So I've understood that it is at the discretion of the board of Agrecovery. And is that correct?
No, it's at the advisory, it's at the discretion of the Animal Plant Health New Zealand board to select someone.
Right. Okay. So the members, the animal health members, could decide who is the most appropriate person to join this advisory group, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Thanks for the clarification, Tony.
And look, the most important thing with all of this is good communication. So I appreciate any brand that sits on the board may feel a little bit uncomfortable or may want to consult widely with their peers, and I'm here to help in that manner. I'm not expecting someone to sit there and have all the answers. It's about the communication back out to the stakeholders and the reference groups, seeking that advice and that input all the way through. And it may mean that we change from time to time who the brand representative is on the advisory board. It's not about making it a rod for one person's back, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. It's just that it is mainly on the how, we decide to eventually pay for this mandatory scheme. I think it's very, very important that all members are comfortable with it, particularly when you have a brand like a manufacturer like Norbrook having 3 or 4 registrations for a similar product. Well, eventually it can be a lot of, I'm just considering the teeth sealant here, that can be very impactful. So it's important to know that we are aligned.
Absolutely. And I mean, I certainly haven't thought about how the charges will happen at the moment. We're just trying to get an understanding of how the whole supply chain works. And given, I call it the extended supply chain. So we're looking beyond the end user, so beyond the farmer, and looking at how we actually get the products back again and understanding the secondary treatment of these products. So the majority of the people here, if not everyone, will be aware with MSD and Elanco that we're about to go out to market with a couple of their products to recycle, and we're introducing a secondary sorting on that one. So that will give us some good insights into how we can accept product back again easily from the farmer or from the veterinarian, and from that to be able to process it to a recyclable state. Ed, should be able to unmute yourself, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Yeah, thanks for the intro. One question I had was around product residues as opposed to packaging. So vet medicines can be complex because there's often more than one type of packaging, which makes it really hard to recycle. But there's also quite often residues, antibiotics or other pharmaceuticals or biologicals that are potentially challenging to get rid of, either because of the size of the receptacle or it's a product that we don't want to wash out. What's the sort of general thinking been so far on that?
So the thinking that we've looked at, anything that's dangerous for a human to handle, we would be looking at treating that down as a different stream, where that would go to pyrolytics for transfer to energy. So anything that's dodgy, anything that we can't recycle easily, or process to be recycled easily, we would be looking at sending that to pyrolytics at this stage. Bearing in mind, there's not a great market out there for being able to send places to transfer to energy in New Zealand. So landfill may be an option as well at the early stages. This is why I say it's going to take a long time. We're going to start with the simple stuff and figure out how we can get that through, and then get to the more technical stuff. But we just need to be mindful, if it's not built for the farmer, if it's not easy for the farmer to participate, or the vet to participate, it will make it harder to get a good return coming back again of product. So my focus is very much is making it as easy as possible to get the product back again, and then we can do something with it. Any more questions out there? So like I say, just while people sort of think if they've got any more questions, like I say, it is about getting the plastic back and recycling it. Recycling in the circular economy may mean landfill or to burn it. We will be taking an easy and considered approach at the beginning to make sure that we can maximise the plastic. Like, you know, Zoetis with the teat sealants has been fantastic. And likewise with MSD and Elanco with their major products. You know, we can get some quick wins across the line with bulk products, but then we need to start working on some of the others that are a little bit more complex and seeing how we can integrate them into either the existing schemes or create another scheme that doesn't complicate what's out there in the market now, but helps us to achieve a common goal of recycling. I certainly don't want to go out there and have 5 or 10 different receptacles at the veterinary clinics for collecting different brands or different products. It is about making it as simple as possible. Cool. So any more questions out there? Okay, look, if that's it, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Look, just wanting to get clarification from you around the, you mentioned that the focus is going to be on getting some quick wins around some key product groupings initially. Can you comment on at what point we can sign off on a product stewardship scheme? Like how far down the chain do we need to go in terms of addressing all the different product lines into separate solutions? And how does that work in practice in terms of finalising the product stewardship scheme?
So there's not a hard and fast rule on this one. It's up to the ministry to decide whether we're doing an acceptable level or not. But I'd be pretty confident to go back to them and say, if we're capturing the 5 of the biggest products, or catching a big majority of the product that's going out into the market, we've left the complex ones to stage 2 or stage 3, they'll be comfortable with that. They'd be more interested in making sure that they're seeing we are proactively going to that second phase and that third phase, that we're not just sitting on getting the bulk of it and saying, oh, the rest is too hard, we're ignoring it. As long as we show progress, they'll be happy. But I can't speak for the ministry on how much volume that they would be comfortable with.
I think that's helpful.
But one other point I'd say is, you know, this is complex. It will take a long time to get up and running, and I am feeding back to the ministry that the complexity of it will take a lot of working out to do. The point that Vanessa raised about the different types of plastics that are out there with the different types of variations of plastics or multiple plastics per packaging, we need to work through all of that and make sure that whatever we price up, whatever we get into, is fair and reasonable for all brands, and is not overly expensive for the farmer at the end of the day as well. So we are mindful to keep costs as low as we can, but make sure we're achieving a good sustainability target. Right, any more questions out there? Okay, so look, the next stage, I'll be putting this Teams meeting up on our website. I encourage you to share it with people who are unable to make this call today. Likewise, please email me, tony.wilson@agricovery.org.nz, with any questions you may have. That will help us understand what frequently asked questions we can put on the websites to help everyone out. Communication is really critical for me to make sure that everyone's aware of what we're doing, and I very genuinely welcome feedback, please. Okay, so if there's no more questions, I will look to end the meeting. Okay. All right, everyone, thank you
Thanks,
for your time.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.